Hello everyone, Ivan here with Alt Future, and we're back with another installment of our weekly update series for the week of May 31st, 2020. It's been quite a long time since we last published a weekly update video, much less a weekly update itself, and we're really glad to be back in the swing of providing timely updates for everyone. With that, let's get started. In today's video, we'll discuss the changes made in Build 81, the first update since Overhauled's launch, as well as discuss a few other things related to the community unlocks and Discord server news. To begin with, we've addressed some of the critical issues for VR users, namely Index and Oculus players who suffered from having the wrong item position and orientation in your hands will no longer have that issue. HTC Vive players will no longer suffer from controls bugs in situations where the controllers would be initialized with swapped positions. Players who experience joystick drifting issues should also no longer have that problem either. Secondly, having read all your feedback and having watched many of your videos and streams, we saw that new players were thrown simply too much information at the start of the game. And with this build, we wanted to make critical changes to better introduce the core game mechanics, one step at a time. In Build 81, at the end of the tutorial, you'll be reminded to read through your train basics and DV guide booklets. You will also be taught to completely release the throttle once you reach desired speed, to let the train coast. Very important in order to conserve fuel. At the first crash or derailment, you'll be informed of what to do next, and that restarting the game isn't necessary. We've redesigned the Career Manager pages to emphasize what you actually need to pay to clear your fees. Even if you have hefty fees piled up, all you need to do is pay your starting copay to have all of your fees cleared. To that end, we've further reduced the starting copay to a measly $100, down from the previous $5,000. The game would formerly mislead you into thinking that by manually servicing a locomotive, you'd always save money. While this is true in the late game when costs are high, in the early game this isn't true. Paying your copay was actually a lot cheaper than paying for manual service. This led to some misunderstandings of the game's economy. The problem was also contributed to by the fact that players had the option to take a logistical haul as their first job, which are rarely profitable on their own and only really useful late game. So, to introduce the player to all these more complex aspects of the game gradually, at the start of the game the player is now given a license to only do freight haul jobs, and is not required to pay for any servicing above that starting fee of $100 at the Career Manager, until they buy their first license. That means at the start of the game, no matter what happens, you only pay the $100 and you're on your way. Freight haul jobs only go between reserved tracks that have no other cars in the way, and they pay well, which should be perfect for a new player to get accustomed to how things work. For a more experienced player that consciously wants to do shunting as well, which involves having other cars in the way, they can buy a shunting license for $1,000. You'll be pleased to see that shunting jobs now show the amount of pickups or drop-offs they include. If you've ever completed a job but didn't understand why it wasn't being accepted, we've added more detailed information to the job report that will tell you if some cars are missing from the track or are in fact derailed, which was a common occurrence. Many of you wrote to us that a train couldn't fit the destination track, and while we know that's not possible given how the job generation works, we've added more wiggle room for you to fit the train to the track. Note that the job cars need to fit between the junctions, not between the signs. There's always enough room. On to the more late game features. The manual servicing license now costs $20,000. It's intentionally more difficult to attain as it's only in the later part of the game when manual servicing actually starts saving money and truly becomes worth the effort. Same as with the Logistical Haul license, also costing $20,000, which is now available for purchase only if you already own a Concurrent Jobs 1 license. Logistical Haul jobs, which deal with already occupied, shared tracks just like shunting, only pay off when taken as part of a longer combined train. Now, with a plus 5% extended time bonus deadline, they are perfect mid to late game purchases and will no longer cause unprofitable runs to beginners. Many more license balancing changes were made. To that end, heavy locomotive licenses too now require owning the Concurrent Jobs 2 license. This will hopefully steer many players away from thinking that taking a DE6 to run a 5-car train is going to be a profitable decision. These things are made to pull long and heavy trains only. Speaking of jobs, if you're having too many to keep track of, or if you've lost any of your job booklets, Included in this update is a way to reprint existing job booklets by pressing the Reprint button on the job validator. This will summon all of your current job booklets from wherever they were to a single place. We've made some changes to the world at large as well. A few turns have been loosened, which should help stop some of the more bogus derailments that occur, and also a fix was made for a few track names that were incorrect. We updated the schematic maps a bit to include where shops are on the overview pages, as well as added some of the missing service stations too. Oh, and the food factory got its own, very sought-for diesel service station. Something important to note, all junction save states are being reset with this update, so they'll all be back to their default positions. Make sure to check them if you've last left your train parked over a junction again your next time through. You fine steam-loving folk will be glad to hear that the Steam Locomotive 2 got its UV layout carefully remade for much easier skin modding. You can expect many new steamer paint jobs from modders coming your way in the following days. Also, if you had problems with excessive tender damage, we've temporarily disabled the damage for it in this build until a proper fix is made, so that you can ride your favorite locomotive without worrying. This build also brought about some bug fixing. One of the oldest bugs in Derail Valley, the white terrain bug, was finally fixed. Some players may have noticed the white terrain towards the southwest corner of the map. For quite a while, its fix eluded us, but now it's finally been solved. More bug fixes were made, or at least attempted, such as for held items growing over time, cars double spawning and causing damage to themselves, a coupler hook drifting over time, as well as crashes happening when trying to start a corrupt save. Now for the Community Unlock news. Since the release of the overhauled update, the Community Unlock points have exploded, as we're nearing 72,000 points. You all unlocked quite a few things, from gondola cars, multiple unit train control, amongst quite a few other things. Many of them are currently in progress, and can be seen on our Community Unlocks page, which will be linked in the description. That's all for this weekly update. For now, drive safe, and we'll see you in the valley.